Hello everybody, hope you guys are enjoying your day. Today we're going to be looking at your first named tropical storm, or your first named tropical storm here, and it's forming over parts of the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to be making its way north and east, and potentially even turning into kind of a nor'easter as it moves up the coast. It's really not going to pose too much of a threat to the coastal areas, but it will be kind of just offshore that you're not going to notice it too much, and then it's going to make a sharp turn to the right. We're going to be going over all of that, your modeled guidance, as well as my personal tropical storm, tropical depression forecast for this. And we're also going to go over your surfing conditions with this event, because you could potentially have some rough surf conditions, you could have some rip currents, and definitely it is going to be some pretty bad swimming conditions over parts of the southeastern United States, and also for parts of the Caribbean. So here is currently your National Weather Service page, and we don't really have a lot going on right now. We have over parts of Illinois, Missouri, and Kansas. We have a couple of flood watches, but other than that, not too much. We have some scattered winded advisories over parts of Illinois, Kentucky, Missouri, and then also for a little bit of Florida and parts of Southern California. They're seeing some wind advisories. Other than that, it is quite a quiet day for the National Weather Service page. Now, here is your 5-day graphical forecast from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida, and they currently have a 60 or greater percent chance. I believe they have a 70% chance of seeing this storm develop. That's currently sitting north of Cuba right now, but that's going to be making its way northward and eastward. Now, I'm going to just read quickly their tropical statement. They wrote an area of cloudiness and thunderstorms located over the Straits of Florida is forecast to spread northeastward during the next day or two. Environmental conditions are expected to become conducive for development, and the system is likely to become a tropical or subtropical depression or storm this weekend when it is located near or north of the northwestern Bahamas. The system is forecast to move generally northeastward over the western Atlantic and by early next week, and then regardless of development, the disturbance is expected to bring locally heavy rainfall and gusty winds to portion of southeastern Florida and the central and northwestern Bahamas over the next couple of days, and then they're going to post their next tropical weather outlook by about 3 p.m. Eastern time today, or earlier if they need to. They have a 40% chance of formation, or a medium chance of formation within the next 48 hours, and over the next 5 days they have a 70% chance of formation. So here is your storm track, and we're going to look at your velocity. This is a good way of showing where this storm is actually going to track. You have a high pressure that's trying to build northeast of about the Bahamas right now, and that's going to be steering the system further to the north and further to the east. So we're going to be going over that with this velocity here. So this is going to show you your storm track. Now, those reds, those oranges, those yellows, that's indicating pretty much where that storm is, and where you have those closed lines, those are isobars, and that's indicating lines of pressure. So that's indicating your pressure. And when you get those closed isobars, that's indicating you have either a high or a low pressure system. In this situation, it would be a low pressure system, and it's going to be moving northward. So right here over east of Florida, this is your system right here, and that's going to be causing, look at your wind direction, these arrows indicating the way the wind is moving, and that's moving straight onto Florida, and that's going to lead to potentially some pretty bad surfing conditions over those areas. So here is your forecast here from the European model, and you see it moves up the coast, and you could potentially see maybe a landfall over the parts of easternmost North Carolina, but then it's going to be moving eastward, and then it's going to move north and east. It's pretty much going to get out of the way. Potentially, it could phase in with this next low pressure system moving over the Great Lakes, and that could potentially intensify it, but by that time, it's already out to sea, and it's moving eastward, and pretty much it's all said and done with as we get past about the 19th or 20th. Now, here is your precipitation for the southeastern United States. And you see, we have this heavy rain start to develop by the 16th of May, which would be Saturday, this Saturday, and it's going to be starting to move further to the north. So I'll push this back a little bit. This would be by Friday morning, and now by Friday afternoon and evening time, you're seeing those heavy rains move through southern and central Florida, and also throughout the Bahamas. And then as we continue, this starts to move again northward. You start to see most of your rainfall is going to be offshore. Maybe easternmost North Carolina gets glazed with some rainfall, but other than that, doesn't look like it's going to cause too much of a threat in terms of precipitation to anywhere other than the Bahamas and also to southern Florida. And I'll show you your rainfall amounts right now. Here are your rainfall amounts, and in those yellows, that's 1 to about 2 inches, 2 to 5 inches. In the reds and in the browns, that's where you're getting 5 or more inches. And you see, for the most part, you're seeing between 2 and about 4 inches of rainfall, with some locally higher amounts over the Bahamas and extreme southern Florida here. So something that we also have to take into account here is your wind shear. Now, this might look a little bit confusing, but if you're anywhere in between these red lines here, and this is a map showing you the North Atlantic right now. So if you're anywhere in between these red lines, this is indicating your wind shear. And usually you want wind shear that is lower, so that you don't have, and basically what wind shear is winds changing with height in the atmosphere. So if you have very strong winds in the higher latitudes of the atmosphere, that's where maybe you're not going to be as conducive for some development of these hurricanes, because the tops of your clouds are going to be slanted, and that's going to really stunt the development of these systems. Over the next couple of days, you do look to be seeing some clearing in this area over where our system is going to be developing, and you look to actually have some clearing. Right now, all of this area is in unfavorable conditions for tropical cyclone formation, but definitely over the next couple of days, this will either become neutral or maybe even slightly favorable for this development. But again, this isn't going to be any crazy storm. It's not going to be a hurricane by any chance, but it most likely will be either a subtropical depression or a subtropical storm here. So here is your wave heights, and we are actually going to have some very high wave heights, especially offshore. You could have wave heights of about 10 to 12 feet, and over the coastal areas, closer to the coastal areas, that's where you could have wave heights between 4 and about 9 feet in height, and this is all in feet, by the way. And it's going to be moving up to the north, and especially over South Carolina, North Carolina, maybe even coastal Georgia. You could also see some wave heights between about 4 and about 7 feet or so. So here is your maximum wind gusts, and this is your maximum wind gusts that will be recorded, or is forecasted to be recorded throughout all the way from now until May 19th. So this is basically going to be when the system is moving off to sea by May 19th. And you see, offshore, we have some very, very strong wind gusts of about 34 to about 50 knots, and that would be between tropical depression winds or tropical storm force wind speeds, and almost even reaching those hurricane force wind speeds, but we're about 6 or 7 knots lower than that. Now, here's your chance of seeing tropical depression winds here, and this is going to be 20 knots or greater is tropical depression wind speeds. And you see anywhere in those yellows, oranges, and reds, that's where it's favorable to have some tropical depression wind speeds here over this area, over parts offshore of the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. And then if we look at your tropical storm force wind speed probabilities, you see we do actually have a decent chance here of about 70% chance of seeing tropical storm force wind speeds of 34 knots or greater. So that is definitely something that we have to pay attention to. So we're going to start looking at my personal forecast here. Anywhere in this kind of darker pink shade, that's where I'm forecasting the track of this storm to be. And anywhere in that lighter pink, that is kind of the cone of uncertainty. And I bet you guys have heard of that term. That's basically where this storm can be or can track. Somewhere within this cone of uncertainty is where the storm can track, and you see that it kind of spreads out as you get later on in time. That's because this forecast becomes more uncertain with time. So Here is your first layer, and this is going to be where I'm forecasting subtropical depression wind speeds. And all these little dots, these are different points in time here. So as you get over parts just west of southern Florida into the northern Bahamas, by that point you will still have subtropical depression wind speeds of about 20 knots or greater at the core of the hurricane or the tropical storm or depression. And then as we get further north, that's where you're going to start to get those subtropical storm wind speeds over really offshore. So it's not going to be anything too major. It's going to be offshore for the most part. That's where you're going to see these subtropical storm wind speeds. In between these two green dots is where I expect the height of this storm to occur. And then as we get to this last blue dot here, this would be where I'm experiencing again subtropical depression wind speeds again, and then it will taper off to below subtropical depression wind speeds. Now here are your surf conditions. Anywhere in the lighter greens, that's where I'm expecting good surf or a decent surf. So it's not going to be too bad. You could still probably go to the beach in these areas, and that's for all the coastal areas of southern Cuba as well as the western half of Florida there. Now you're gonna have some okay surf, which still means that there is a threat, and a fairly decent threat, that there will be rip currents throughout the area and there is gonna be dangerous surf. So definitely I would not advise going to the beach or swimming within this okay surf region. Basically anywhere from southeastern Virginia south to about Orlando, Florida, and then south of there, that's where you even have worse surf. And then also for about the northern 2/3 of Cuba there, that's where again you have some rough surf. It's not going to be too nice to be out on the beach over those areas. Now, bad surf is where I'm expecting for it to be pretty much a no-go. You can't really go to the beach in these conditions, where there'll probably be rip currents because of this tropical storm moving up the coast. And that'll probably lead to some pretty bad surf conditions over parts of the southern half of Florida as well as the northern Bahamas. There, seeing some bad surfing conditions. Anyways, guys, that is gonna wrap it up for today's video, and I hope you guys all enjoyed. I do want to ask you guys to subscribe and leave a like to the video, and also turn on notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.